Good afternoon or good day, depending on which part of the world or time zone you are. Welcome to the third in the series of seminars, now webinar to celebrate Nigeria's National Day anniversary, the 61st this year. I am Fola Shoboyejo, Executive Director of the Shoboyejo Turning Point Charity Foundation. In collaboration with the Association of Nigerians in Lethbridge and the Southern Alberta Ethnic Association, you are welcome to this seminar. For some, there may not be information or awareness of the activities of the Shoboyejo Foundation. Our mission is simple: to promote and work on educational development and community development. To this end, with the grace of God and the support of people from especially Lethbridge churches and in different parts of the world, we have support. Even in Nigeria, we have completed the reconstruction of a school, the Ogun School in Ifo local government of Ogun State, Nigeria. 3 classrooms, a computer laboratory, toilet building, all with ceramic flooring and aluminum roofing. We have also done 2 seminars in the past. One on immigration and global migration from history to now and going to the future. We also held a seminar in 2019 on the topic of development and democracy, borrowed from the developed countries. Will the model work in developing countries? So this is the third one. We didn't have one last year due to COVID, and we hope you will enjoy it. And for the future, our project is a women and youth center to promote after-school activities instead of kids running into trouble, running around the village and having conflicts with their parents. We are dreaming of a youth and women center where women too can acquire skills in literacy, crafts, and work with the kids on painting, drawing, sculpting, weaving, braiding, fashion designing, haircuts, crafts and welding, small crafts items, and woodwork. And because of the connection of Ogun town to the Adubi War in the 20s, about a century ago, whereby when the war theater was very hot and the conflict was very devastating, the people that escaped from that conflict found refuge in Ogun town. And from our knowledge, based on our knowledge and available information to us, Adubi, the freedom fighter who led the struggle, is remembered in books and stories about the war, Adubi War, but he has not been memorialized. There's no cenotaph to his memory and things like that. So we have space in the lot after developing the Women and Youth Center to have Adubi Heroes Museum built in the place. We also have plans for internet radio where children can express themselves and people can interact on the internet, radio, and learn and teach, and do have all kind of information, local and so forth, about commodities, market days, and local sports and things like that. That is our dream for the future. And even now, before we formally launch the project, we have, contributions already coming in. So this is an opportunity for partnership and for support. Thank you and welcome to the third in the series of our webinars and seminars. And the title is Fake News, Disinformation, Belief Systems, and Truth. Perspectives on navigating a polarized world for peace, development, and happiness. We will have fun today because we are very great speakers. Thank you and welcome.
So I'm going to move on to introduce our first speaker. I would like to introduce Dr. Lambo. Dr. Lambo holds a Bachelor's of Science in Biology, Master of Science in Immunology, Master of Science in Epidemiology, Public and Population Health. He is a medical doctor with professional specialization certificate in population health data and analysis. He is a diplomate of the Royal College of Physicians, London, in tropical medicine and infectious diseases. A medical officer and consultant with UNICEF, medical officer and consultant with World Health Organization, Pakistan. He's practiced family medicine in Vulcan, held various faculty positions at several universities in Canada and in the Caribbean. He joined the University of London in 2015, where he teaches and supervises graduate students in epidemiology and public health. Dr. Lambo teaches medical students in epidemiology and evidence-based medicine at the Adebola University School of Medicine, Dutch Caribbean, where he also directs a global school-based student health survey project. His research focuses on all aspects of epidemiology of pregnancy, infancy, and childhood, including the study of any factors that influence maternal health and the health and development of children from the conception through their adolescence. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jonathan Adebola Lambo. Thank you. So he's ready. I see him beaming with smiles. So let's put him on. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me well? Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Awoshuga, for the introduction, and I'd like to thank Engineer Shuboijo and his family, for this occasion today, for inviting me. And I thank all the co-speakers and everyone in Lethbridge, Alberta. My home is in Vulcan, Alberta. I just happen to work in various places. My topic is really a very important one at this time, where there's a lot of misinformation there. And I'll be talking briefly about what impacts us today. How can we understand COVID-19 anti-vaccination information better, and what is the implication for preventing and treating COVID-19? First of all, I have no, let me just, I think I might use this, right, that's working. Let's see. This is a bit of a challenge. Okay, I've got no conflict of interest. This is the structure of my presentation. I like to, I don't like this slides presentation, but I like to talk about some of the issues around COVID-19 and anti-vaccination miscommunication and how it affects, misinformation on treatment and prevention of COVID-19. As you well know, COVID-19 has impacted all of us in an unprecedented manner. And we know very well that vaccination is the cornerstone of prevention of COVID-19. But having said that, we should bear in mind that, knowing that vaccine is a public, health good, it provides not only benefit for the individual, but also for population protection. And there are three issues we are facing at this point, since the, pandemic started. We are not sure about vaccine-associated harm, and these are the areas people are questioning. We can talk about the individual protection, but we still need to know to what extent the vaccine protects us as a population. And the third question people are asking, what about, vaccine safety concern? And before we can actually talk about this, we need to understand some of those things that have been done in the past successfully, about, what are the factors actually, that behavioral factors that underpin vaccine, uptake, so that we can have adequate protection in the community. Yeah, so there are three things that, the World Health Organization actually brought out, creating an enabling environment, and annexing social influences and creating motivation. And on October this year, last year rather, the technical advisory group met. These are experts, are actually asking three questions. How can we promote? What are the behavioral interventions that can promote adequate uptake at the population level? Well, what are the issues around, warning people about risk? And what about, promoting uptake for the most vulnerable groups? These are the people who are liable to actually die from, COVID-19. And this question was very, very, very good at this point to really revisit. And before we do that, let's just talk about some of those, how anti-vaccination movement started. It started, well, the modern time, we know that it started with this, publication in Lancet in 1998, which was eventually retracted by this physician who actually, falsified, data about measles, mumps, rubella vaccination, and, intestinal obstruction in children, so that it all came to light that this was a fraud, and the paper, was actually, retracted. And this has actually led, to the downward trend of, measles, mumps, rubella vaccine uptake in the population. We're still suffering from that up to date. And that has gone down over time now, like over 20 years now, to impact also the COVID-19 vaccination uptake. We know that misinformation, it tells us about, misleading healthcare information. And we know, because of this, we know that the guidelines, around COVID-19 pandemic, the turnout is really very, rapid. And so, those people who are ready to, misinform us, use that as a fertile ground to really, promulgate anti-vaccination ideologies. Now, we need to understand that all these, misinformation devices are an obstacle in the way of getting vaccinated. And that creates a lot of multiple uncertainties, and we know very well now that there is an abundance of, overabundance of information, even circulating around COVID-19, which we call, infodemic. Yeah, and some of these is really very important. I like when the, our president of the Southern Alberta Ethnic Group said, the virus even, the information, misinformation, if even spread faster, than the virus. And, some of the characteristics of this overabundance information is that it makes it difficult for both the public and the public health authorities to identify an actionable path to counter misinformation and rumors. They not only get in the way public health, responses, but they also generate, disrespect among the public and distrust among the public. Go to the next slide. And we know very well, all of us are aware of the sources of this spread, of misinformation in the social media. And, even the traditional, media, mass media are also accomplices of this, misinformation. They come out with a lot of narratives that aim to prove, the medical and scientific experts, to be fallible, right? So they come with a lot of, we know very well, conspiracy and anti-vax theories, and they use a lot of decor, to link aspect that might be, seems sensible, right? The WHO has actually made a sort of platform where the main, misinformation, virus messages, we can, go there and really alert ourselves to it. I mean, I'll be talking about some of the solutions that we can actually use to combat some of these, fallible, hypotheses and theories. Now, we need, people have to understand that to develop effective strategy to counter, it is important also to understand the strategies that are used by these people, right? You see, the first thing they try to do, they are very, very, the anti-vaccination group, they are a heterogeneous group. And, they come up with a lot of misinformation that are characterized by the distrust of the science, and the selective use. They might take some of those paragraphs in the guidelines and begin to misconstrue it, to favor their theories. And they also have distrust in the pharmaceutical, companies and government. They come up with simplistic, explanation, and they use a lot of emotion and anecdotes to, sort of impact rational decision making. These are some of those, myths they put on the WHO website that all of us are, familiar with. And, the way out is for the public rather to be empowered to be able to say, yeah, this is a misinformation, right? And, the government has to even make these people more, the media companies more accountable. And the second option is for us to actually begin to look at the trusted, sources and fact checking for ourselves and even responding, to misinformation through dedicated dashboard. And some of these dashboards are there by the World Health Organization, by, CDC, Health Canada, UNICEF. We can go there and really know the truth, right? And another way is for us, this web of information is a very good one to understand. It's a way of really, when we are in a network, in the WhatsApp group, we can see, the way rumor propagates, when a person sends a rumor to the chat group, and then, the next person should be aware, should double check these facts. And then the next person, got their news from trusted source. And we begin to ask ourselves, how do we know that this information is really true? And I'm going to give you a summary of, one of those, rumors that was propagated, the use of ivermectin, a medication that is actually used to treat intestinal, parasites in both the human and also the intestinal parasites of, the animals, right? So we see, in the last 3-4 months, over a year ago, we see that people have actually, begin to use ivermectin, trying to say, well, rationalize that, it could, prevent and treat COVID-19. So the CDC came out with this summary. At about the same time, Health Canada also came out and issued warnings that, do not use the veterinary. You are not a horse, you are not a sheep. Why are you using the veterinary ivermectin for the prevention or treatment of COVID-19, right? And they urge people who are persistent to really discard it and things like that. The graph here, you will see here shows, this is from the, data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in United States. On the x-axis, you see the number of ivermectin prescription dispensed, and on the, on the x-axis, you see the dates. And over time, even before, pre-pandemic period between March 22, 2019 and, March 6, 2020, you can see that, the ivermectin prescription were actually limited to those ones that are used to treat, intestinal parasite in animals. But if you, keep on looking after April 20 post-pandemic, you see there is a bit of a rise in the number of, ivermectin prescription, which shows that people are being misled by this misinformation to, treat themselves, and well, I like to speak at the videos, you can actually. So what I like to end up with is that how can we actually be well informed, right? Apart from the dashboards that I said quite some time ago, we can turn to, we can seek evidence, and that evidence comes from, studies that have been proven, to really show, what the treatment or the prevention intervention can do and cannot do. And one of them is this one. We can always go to what we call Cochrane Library, where we can get trusted, evidence and informed, decision about intervention. This is one of them that was carried out very recently, what we call systematic review of, evidence based on, explicit question. And the authors here are now asking, ivermectin, safer and efficacious, work better compared to no treatment, to, the standard of care, to, dummy medicine they give to people, right? And eventually they found, no evidence to support the use of ivermectin for treating and preventing COVID infection. They say, like any other thing, evidence base is limited, and there are also other studies that are being done that, as time, goes on, they will update the review to tell us the state of art of the evidence. So these are the kind of things that we need to turn to. The good thing about the Cochrane Library is that they also produce evidence for lay people who are not well into the science of medicine and things that we can always put there. The one that I just showed you is just this, the abstract is for the lay people. Yeah. So I like to conclude by saying that three things. Public expectation management is the key, right? And the government and the partners need to listen and urgently needed to clarify issues around vaccine safety, vaccine effectiveness, and population protection. Now, the public needs to be empowered to be able to, identify and report misinformation, and the media companies that need to be, has to remove harmful information. And again, we have this utility of available trusted sources. We can check facts, we can respond to misinformation, and the peer-reviewed literature that I told you, and the databases like Cochrane Library, we can use it to access evidence, for the safety and effectiveness of intervention, preventing and treating COVID-19. Having said that, the key message that I'd like you to take today is that, in view of the prevailing problems of vaccine safety concern, how the vaccine work, and we know very well that there are many problems here. People who get COVID vaccine after 2 doses, right? The immune response is mounted is expected to be available after 2 weeks, and some of these people are getting COVID-19, infection again. That erodes public, distrust, that people are concerned about that. And in those days when I was in the field, we used to call it, vaccine failure. but now they dress it up and call it fancy name. They call it breakthrough infection, right? Yeah, and a lot of things is that, you know, I can tell you myself, I'm also, you know, going through, since I got a second dose of COVID-19, you know, AstraZeneca Shield, you know, vaccine in Lethbridge on June, actually June 15, right? This will be the fourth month today, and I've lost my feelings in my left fingers, and my fingers are like you know, if I feel it, it's like rubbing against sandpaper. Yeah, I won't, you know, such things will erode public confidence, right? So, but having said that, vaccination with COVID, you know, vaccine remains the cornerstone for preventing COVID-19. We need to be alert to the dangers of misinformation and verify information using trusted sources and access evidence for treating and preventing COVID-19 using peer-reviewed literature and databases. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
Wow, Dr. Lambo, thank you so very much. So I'm going to invite us, if we have maybe a question or two for Dr. Lambo following his presentation, please, you're welcome to send a text in the chat box if you are on there, or you can indicate with a raised hand and you will be allowed to speak up and ask your question. So if anybody is listening and you have a question for Dr. Lambo, please do so now.
May you understand?
Okay, I think you are a solid teacher. We understood the lesson and we are all clear. Oh, okay. Somebody?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody would like to know how they can have access to the material that you shared for your presentation. So do you have like a PowerPoint? Okay,
Exactly.
Through the Turning Point, if you can send an email to Turning Point Foundation. Is there an email?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can make the presentation and the website available, right? I'll do that. I'll be very happy.
All right. Thank you for the asking.
Yeah.
All right. So we're just going to move on to the next
Thank you very much.
presentation.